So you're building your network and you've met someone for coffee or you've had that first initial meeting of some kind and now you're like, okay, I've got to stay in touch. How? Well, I'm gonna give you 5 ways today. Real quick, if we haven't met, my name is Cassandra and I help you go from hating work to happy work, and a huge way we do that is through networking. So let's talk about how to follow up with people after that initial meeting. Because remember, networking is not just one meeting. You don't just meet somebody once, exchange a business card or exchange LinkedIn messages and are like, cool, I've got a network. That's the start. We have to build that relationship, which means we need more touch points. And here are 5 of the easiest. And number 1 is going to be really obvious, but number 5, the very last one, is my favorite. It's often overlooked and people should do it, so make sure to stay for all of them. So number 1, send a simple text or email a couple of weeks or even 2 months after that first meeting. Just, hey, I thought of you today, wanted to know how you're doing. You know, when you have a sec, text me back or give me a call, right? Who doesn't want to be thought of? So it's a super simple thing to do. It's so obvious that we overlook it, but just send a quick text saying, hey, thought of you. Let me know what you're up to. I've done this with people that I haven't spoken to in 3 years, and then I've texted them out of the blue and they still get back to me. Because again, who doesn't want to be thought of? So keep people on a file of like, okay, oh, it's time to check in with them again. Every quarter or so is probably best. I have another video, and in my course, Land a Job You Love, I also talk about this of different people get different timing, but those people you really want to stay on top of, probably once every 3 to 4 months, you can send one of those texts. Number 2, when something reminds you of the person, tell them about it. Again, this is being thought of, but this is being thought of with specificity. So my friend Chrissy loves fall just as much as I do, and we start talking about fall in July. And she is somebody I met at a conference, but one of the things that bonds us that we talk about is like, hey, did you see the new fall stuff out at Target? Or hey, it's August and I already decorated my house, and Chrissy will write back and go, I decorated mine in July. Like, we both have a love of fall, so we talk to each other about it. I have a former coworker, when we worked together back in the early 2000s, this is going to date me, or mid-aughts, we talked about Juicy Couture and we talked about Bloomingdale's holiday catalog and the Neiman Marcus holiday catalog. We love Christmas and we love Christmas gifts. So we would talk about those things. And when we see a new catalog come out this year, even though they're digital, we tend to message each other about them. Or when Juicy Couture kind of had a renaissance a couple years ago, we messaged each other and we're like, can you believe the tracksuits are back? Like, because she's the person I think of with that thing. And so we talk to each other about that. Sometimes when I give this tip, people tell me like, oh, well, I don't like connect to people that way. I don't think that way. I'm gonna be honest, you need to start. When you start listening to people, pay attention to what they care about, what you connect on, and when you like something, think about who else do I know that likes this, and message that person. Like, you really gotta start nurturing this and making this a skill to start connecting the dots between interests and people and letting them know. It's just a really easy way to keep in touch, and you're keeping in touch with thoughtfulness of like, hey, I care about this, I know you care too. Okay, the third way to keep in touch, send a gift. Gift does not mean it has to be expensive. And this isn't something you do all the time, but even a $5 Starbucks card to say thank you for something, or a, hey, just wanted to brighten your day, that goes so far. So make sure that you're budgeting for gifts for people, and don't be afraid to send a gift here and there. This is one I would use maybe once a year, or maybe there's a holiday gift and a birthday gift and something like that, or just a once in a blue moon. You're not doing this every other week or as your only touch point, but it's one that people don't talk about a lot, but those who know how to network well do this one. And so it's a great one to think about picking up. Number 4, you can catch up with another coffee or another Zoom. So if you met at a conference, right, and you talked for a couple of days, 6 months down the road, say, hey, I'd love to catch up with you over Zoom and have another Zoom. Let's say you met for coffee. 6 months later, a year later, you can say, I'd love to catch up and see how you're doing. Do you want to go for coffee again? You don't have to do this with everybody, but those people that you hit it off with, but life just gets busy, check in with them. And you'll get yeses a lot of the time because most people know they should network. They're just not taking the initiative to do it. So you're giving them the opportunity. You're being the initiator. You're giving them the opportunity to build their network with you as well. So don't be afraid to ask for another coffee. Number 5, and this is my absolute favorite, recommendations. recommendations, and this goes both ways. And I'll explain what I mean that, but first, what I don't mean is LinkedIn recommendations. Like, yeah, you can give LinkedIn recommendations. That's a nice thing to do. You can get LinkedIn recommendations, but I'm talking about either recommending something to someone or taking someone's recommendation and acting on it. This is the easiest one, and people don't do it. But when you meet with somebody, or even if down the line you're following them on Instagram or LinkedIn and they talk about a book they read that they recommend, go read the book, okay? Go read the book. It's that simple. If they say, hey, we've got this big problem at work right now and I'm really having trouble with it, can you try and think of a couple of solutions? Even if they've already thought of those things, the fact that you thought of them and were like, hey, I have a couple recommendations, it's gonna go really far. So don't be afraid to give those recommendations to them. The other way this works is, remember, it doesn't have to be business. We are still people connecting with people. So when you meet for coffee, if they get the new, I don't know, whatever Starbucks latest fall drink is gonna be. As of filming, we don't know yet, but like, let's say it's a pumpkin cream cold brew, but they add toffee nut syrup. Great. They're like, oh, this is my secret. I add toffee nut syrup to the pumpkin cream cold brew. It's so good. Go get one the next week. The next week, put it in your calendar if you have to. We act like if we have to do things with deliberation, then it's not authentic. No, it's just showing care. Put it in your calendar. Go order pumpkin cream cold brew with toffee nut syrup. And go one day and do it. Take a picture of yourself and send it to them and go, oh my gosh, you're right. This is so good. Or if that seems a little too casual, at least just send them an email or Slack message saying, hey, I went and tried your secret Starbucks hack and you're right. The cream cold brew, pumpkin cream cold brew with the toffee nut is so much better, or whatever it is. Do they even make toffee nut anymore? That was the greatest. And I don't even know if that's just seasonal at the holidays anymore, if it's gone. But if it's not, I think I might now go try that. But something like that, like if they recommend a restaurant, a movie, a place you should go when you're on vacation in Mexico, because you were talking about how you're going on vacation there, go have a dinner at that place, go watch that movie, like whatever it is, it can be that simple. And then same on the flip side, is there something you can recommend to them based off just what you've learned about them as a person? So this kind of goes back to number 2 of what you have in common, but this is the, oh, I don't have it in common, but I saw this thing and I know they like this thing. Send it to them. So really, y'all, this doesn't have to be deep. Like this could be, you were talking to somebody and they talk about how they love shoes and they get shoes in every color and like they have a shoe collection. Did a new shoe come out in like a weird lavender color or something? Send it to them. Like that's such a weird offhand example, but for the right person, it makes sense. Take recommendations and give recommendations. That is my favorite. It feels good to connect to somebody that way. And again, who doesn't love when somebody actually takes you up on the recommendation you gave them? Like when someone comes back to me and goes, oh my gosh, you told me to watch that show and you're right, it is so good, or that podcast was amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, you listened to it because I told you to listen to it? That's amazing. Like I feel so good. And now I feel more connected to you. So those are great ways to stay in touch, to follow up with people and build that network. Now, if you are looking on how to follow up with a recruiter, like how do I follow up after an interview? I've got a whole separate video about that here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.